Hello, welcome back to everyone that's tuned into our channel, American Ultra Stock. Here we are again bringing to you guys the segment that we typically do. If you're new in the channel, this is the Stock Watch, the segment where we analyze how the players or coaches, Americans did abroad and at home. We had a US game, so we'll see. Stay tuned for that. We're going to have a match reaction coming out as well. But Braden, straight to the point. But also, before we go to the point, actually, not straight to the point, let's do a curve right here. And if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit like, subscribe, or comment. Comment down below who were the players that impressed you, and let's see if it aligns with the ones that we thought caught the eye. So, Braden, who's the first one that caught your eye and gets a stock up from this weekend?
So the first one and the only player who I think was actually somewhat impressive at Camp Cupcake, Esmir Bayraktarovic, the 18-year-old, the youngest player at the camp and the best. I think he was the best player on the pitch when he was on between the U.S. players and the Slovenians. And yeah, his first touch on his USMNT debut, he nutmegged the guy, and it just kept getting better. Every time he got the ball, he showed willingness to attack. He beat the defender about 90% of the time. He's always threatening, and honestly, as soon as he and the other subs came in, it completely changed the game. So he was unfortunate not to have a goal contribution, but the signs were there. The only thing we wanted from Camp Cupcake was to see some flashes like that out of the young players, and we did get that from Esmir, so it's not a total failure, but like Yuri said, check out our video about Camp Cupcake and what we thought about that. But I thought Esmir was really good. He showed that he has a true USMNT future, and it showed that the scouting department for once is actually doing a good job of recognizing him, because I think the US soccer is a lot higher on him than most of our fans are, and it shows with him being the only player who hasn't really established himself in MLS yet, that was with the Olympics, now with the main national team, and he's impressed everywhere he's played.
Yeah, it's nice how you said you touched on the Olympics. He has scored for the U23s as well, and anytime he played, he did really well. That's one of the reasons why on the dual nat tier list I put him in 8, because I thought he was really impressive there. And it's so nice, as you said, this is all we wanted, at least to see a spark from the guys that never got a run out and aren't really going to be MLS lifers. So really a bright spot in a very, very boring game. I think we're being kind saying that. But the player that I'm picking, the first one that got a stock up, I'm going to pick Leonard Maloney. I know he's not the flashiest of names. App ratings can really deceive you. And everyone who has watched the channel knows that I'm a really, really huge advocate of Turner Testament. So I'm extra critical of anyone that plays in the same position. But I have to say, Leonard Maloney, what a performance. Even though he did get subbed off, very, very commanding in the midfield. He gets subbed off because he's the guy that runs the most. He covers the most space. Very, very... such a volunteer really in the midfield. His passing is getting a lot better too. He's getting the ball a lot more. There was a point in the season, I think by the 5th game, where he was the player in the whole Bundesliga with least amount of touches per game. That has changed since then. Always with a good pass accuracy rate. Really good, and so good at intercepting balls. You see that on the numbers that he doesn't get many recoveries or tackles, but it's because he reads the play really well. Really, really good. And I feel like right now at this moment in time, if the US was to play Brazil and Argentina in Copa America tomorrow, I would start him as CDM. I think that he really fits, and he's such a good player to just allow the rest of the midfield to play. And I'm really impressed with him, man. What a season from Heidenheim. Everyone involved at the club too just got promoted, 9th place so far. I think they're going to finish in the top 10. So I'm picking Maloney. Now, on a sour note, Braden, who's the first one that did not impress and got to stock down?
So my first stock down, we're going to stick with the Camp Cupcake theme, and I'm going to go for Gregg, because the way he managed that game was abysmal, and it just shows that we're never going to be taken seriously if we have a manager of this quality. He's going to let down this generation of such exciting players that we have. The starting lineup that he put out was completely baffling. Playing players like Shaq Moore, it just doesn't make sense in 2024, especially when we have a young right back who's Olympic eligible on the bench who didn't get a single minute. Doesn't really make sense. I will say the one thing Berhalter always does well, I think, is making the right subs. But my counter argument after watching this game is those players should have been starting in the first place. And maybe he only makes the right subs because he realizes his mistake mid-game. But if he can't adapt that for the next game, which he hasn't been able to do, it doesn't really mean much, especially since the subs didn't even go out there and get a goal despite impressing. Losing to Slovenia's B team, despite the fact that it's our MLS lifers, is completely embarrassing. And honestly, it shows that the Slovenian league might be a higher quality than MLS. And for a league that a lot of Americans are now saying is pushing top 10, and honestly, I thought this myself, but if we have players like that who are supposed to be the best of Americans in MLS, I know we have a lot of foreign talent in the league, but still, if the best Americans can't beat a Slovenia B team, it doesn't really say a lot of good things about the league. So I think Berhalter mismanaged this game a lot, and it's just a bad sign for the US. It's a bad sign for Camp Cupcake, and a bad sign for MLS in general.
Yeah, definitely a terrible game, in my opinion, and it's all due to the guy that's at the helm. I completely agree with you. I'm going to go for another American coach who I rated really highly. I thought he had a really good start of the season. Pellegrino Matarazzo, honestly, has been shocking lately, and you see a lot of people complaining. I think it's 5 on the bounce that they have lost or drawn. Their last win was in the first week of December. We're approaching February, and they haven't won a game ever since. And honestly, it's looking really, really bad for them. Although the start of the season does carry them and keeps them in the top 10, so that's okay. But it's looking really bad. The signs just to play, it's awful, really. I don't know what he's trying to do. You don't really see a pattern on how the team's going to score. Every time I watch Hoffman, I can't imagine how they're going to score or not concede. It's so open. And it might be due to a shortage of players really at the back. I mean, you see John. I was going to include John Brooks on this, by the way, but in my opinion, he's honestly not even relevant enough to add up to this anymore. He's never going to get called up because of the situation with Gregg, but regardless, he's still getting benched. But yeah, Matarazzo, I think that American coaches are definitely something that we need to improve, and they're crucial for the future of the game. So props to him for waving the flag and doing his job in Europe, carved out a career there. So that's nice, but unfortunately, it's not a good look, really, when you have an American coach go 5 games without a win, with arguably a good team that should be doing better. But who's the next guy that gets to stock up, Braden?
My next stock up is going to be Nathaniel Brown, the dual national American-German left back from Nuremberg in the second Bundesliga. He picked up a clean sheet and a nice assist against Hansa Rostock. He's pushing Nuremberg up to the promotion spots. I think they're in the playoffs right now. He signed for Frankfurt actually in the January window, but he's back on loan to Nuremberg for the rest of the season to try to get them promoted before he does leave for the Bundesliga club next season. He's going to be linking up with Paxton Aronson and Timmy Chandler, fellow Americans at Frankfurt, and I think by next season he's going to be ready for the level, and he's going to be catching a lot of American fans' eye because, to be honest, I think a lot of our fans only watch the top flights. We have a lot of players balling in second divisions all over Europe, really. We got Tessmann, Busio in Serie B. We have players like Jogo, who are in the La Liga too, players like Nathaniel Brown in second Bundesliga, Max Dietz as well at Greuther Fürth. And I think he's going to have a lot of eyes on him at Frankfurt next season, and I think he can live up to the hype. He just joins our long list of young left backs who have been impressing recently: John Tolkien, Caleb Wiley, George Bello, Christopher Lund, obviously. And there's a lot of competition there now suddenly behind Jedi Robinson, who is obviously still the starter and will be for a while because he's one of the best left backs in the world after his performances this season. But the left back spot behind him, the backup, is up for grabs. And I think if we can successfully recruit Nathaniel Brown, who is a German youth international right now, I think he'd honestly be pushing Lund for the backup spot. And you guys, if you've been watching for a while, you know how highly I rate Lund's. But Brown's a special player, honestly. And I know he doesn't play right back, but I would love to see him get called up to replace Serginho Dest in the next Nations League camp, because even though he'd be playing out of position, it's still better than people like Shaq Moore or Daewon Jones. And it's worth a shot to try to recruit another dual national that has a lot of potential.
Yeah, and before anyone that doesn't really know what happened, Dest is suspended. So it's not as if Braden's saying that he's better than Dest, just so anyone that's watching is aware. Now my next player is coincidentally Serginho Dest himself. I'm also picking a right back, but this one is just more out of admiration for how he revived his career. Again, gets an assist. I always mention how much I like Dest, but never really include him on this. But props to him, and I'm also going to give him props for that interview too. It's very unique how he just said that Xavi's still there, so he's not going back. A lot of character, very Dest-esque to say something like that. But it shows that maybe he learned. He knows that he's not just going back and trying to make that dream that we all, let's be honest, he doesn't really have the level to play there for the defensive capability. So he's not trying to persist on the error. So I'll give him props and a stock up for Dest. Now, your next pick for a stock down, Braden.
Yeah, my next stock down is going to be Chris Richards. He just wasn't good. He was playing well at the CDM position, but he finally got shifted back to a center back in a back five against Arsenal, and they played five defenders, conceded 5 goals. Horrible game for Crystal Palace. Roy Hodgson needs to go because he doesn't know what to do with that team. He's a fossil. He was a good manager, but he's not anymore. They never should have brought him back for a second term. But none of that really matters when Chris Richards is playing, and he's playing bad. He's finally getting the opportunities, which is nice, but when you're putting out performances like that, you're not going to get many opportunities, and it kind of shows why he's behind Gahey and Anderson in the center back depth. Both of those players are very good. There's been a lot of links with Mark Gahey going to a bigger club, so Richards could be a full-time starter pretty soon if that does happen. But if it doesn't, I think he just needs to leave. Crystal Palace are an absolute mess right now, and he hasn't been putting in his best performances this season. It's been a bit of a down year for him, not playing a lot. When he does play, he's either out of position or it's a poor performance. At the national team level, too, he got benched for the games against Trinidad and Tobago for Miles Robinson. If you're getting benched for Miles Robinson, there's a serious problem with your game. And yeah, it's just overall not been that good of a season, and it just all capitulated for him and Crystal Palace against Arsenal.
Yeah, I think that honestly, even if Gay gets sold, just for how important he's been, Palace would go to the market and get another player. I don't think that Richards has done enough for the fans to be amicable toward a decision where, okay, we have this guy, we'll just put him on. I think that ultimately he's going to have to leave. And I completely agree. It's a mess of a club. We know that Palace is just always mid-table or fighting relegation. And Hodgson, you're right, shouldn't have been there. So it's sad to see, but let's hope that he does better. And my next player is also a player in the Prem. It's Matt Turner again. He's been a bit of a regular on my stock down picks, but although I don't think that he was at fault for any of the goals particularly, I can't really pinpoint that it was his fault. Although he could have done better, especially on the third. I know people say, oh, that's a banger from Mape, but I think he could have done better. He could foresee where the ball was going. Part of being a goalkeeper is anticipating what's going to happen. And you look at the way he commands his box on crosses, he never anticipates what's going to happen. Sometimes he solely relies on the reflexes, and for a top goalkeeper, I don't think that's enough, and I don't think he's a top goalkeeper. This is his ceiling. This is the best that he could have done. Props to him, but again, a stock down, and I just want to re-emphasize how much that position is up for grabs. So that's my take for the next player stock down. Now, who's the last one that caught your eye and deserves a stock up?
Just one more thing on Turner. I know a lot of people on Twitter have been very critical of Ivan Toney for moving the ball several times on the free kick after the wall was set. But the fact of the matter is, as a Premier League goalie, you need to know how to command your wall. I know he had them set up. I know Toney moved the ball, which was illegal. He shouldn't have done that. It's not allowed. But regardless, if the keeper can't notice that and tell his wall to adjust to it, he shouldn't be playing at a Premier League level and letting up the free kick as well, going around the wall. It's just a very bad look for Turner, who's been very, very poor this season. Honestly, he's lucky that Bocodimos has been just as bad, because realistically, for a Premier League team, he shouldn't be starting. But moving on to a more positive note, my last player who gets a stock up is going to be Johnny Cardoso. Played his first game for Real Betis, starting against Barcelona, one of the biggest clubs not only in Spain but in the world, and he didn't look out of place at all. Real Betis did lose. It wasn't a great game for them, besides Isco with another magical performance. He's been so good this season. But a 4-2 loss for Betis, but he got a standing ovation when he was subbed off. Just a solid game all around. Very, very careful, not taking too many risks, but that's what you want from a player in his position from a debut. He's very solid defensively, and I think it just shows that he is ready for La Liga. He's ready to be at that level. I know there was some doubts coming from Brazil. It's a very different league in terms of quality and the play style, but he seems to have adapted quickly already, getting the start in such an important game for Betis. And he didn't look out of place at all. I think it's just going to be on to bigger and better things for the rest of the season.
Yeah, very solid performance. And if we compare, I'll be honest, I was a huge Johnny critic. The way that he started last year, at this point he was preparing for Gauchon, where he had some bad matches, and now he's playing La Liga. So props to him. I don't think that he was tremendous, but you're right, it didn't look out of place. Very safe performance, solid. He just got in the team too, so if people think that he maybe was a little bit shy on the ball, that's normal. So overall, good performance, and definitely sets the foundation for future games. Now I'm picking the last player, Pfok. That's my last stock up. I think that Pfok has quietly been having a really good season. I think 6 goals all around in all competitions, if I'm not mistaken. And it gets his 4th in the Bundesliga. Good goal too, although they lost. I think that ultimately props to PFOC for foreseeing. I don't know if he's a magician or something, but he could see how bad the Union Berlin season would be, and I think that he's doing enough to warrant a full-time contract with Gladbach, which would be really nice. Let's not forget PFOC is not an old player. He's a good physical player. I think that he does suit the style that Gregg tends to play, so he's still an option up there. So yeah, that's my last pick. Now, who's the last one that gets the pick for the stock down, Braden?
So my last stock down is going to be a bit of an unorthodox one, and it's a player who I've been very high on for this season, despite limited minutes. It's going to be Ricardo Pepi, and I just think at some point the lack of minutes is going to become a problem, and I think it has. He's playing 5 to 10 minutes a match, and he has been very effective with limited minutes, both for the USMNT and for PSV this season. He scored a lot of goals off the bench for both. But at some point, Luuk de Jong, he's an old player. He shouldn't be playing every single minute of every single game, especially for a club like PSV who have ambitions to win 3 trophies this season, or maybe not 3 because the Champions League is a bit out of reach, but to do the double and still compete in the Champions League as well. 3 competitions for that old of a striker to be playing every single minute, and it takes its toll. And when you have a young striker as good as Pepi, he should be getting trusted to at least start some games, not just come off the bench for cameos occasionally. And it's concerning me a little bit. I know he's still the future of PSV. It's not a major concern, but I think he should be getting a lot more minutes, especially when Luuk de Jong has a hat trick. You're already up 3 to 4 goals. Just put on Pepi. There's no point. 2 games ago, de Jong got a hat trick around the 60th minute. It's a perfect time to put on Pepi. 30 minutes. He really could have made an impact. And especially this game as well, their first drop points against Utrecht. Luuk de Jong, it clearly wasn't working, but they waited until the 82nd minute, I believe, to bring on Pepi. It's just not enough time for him to make an impact. So I'm going to put him stock down for now. It's not a major thing, like I said, but he should be getting more minutes than he is right now.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. Yeah, he's a really young player. I don't know why they keep on playing de Jong, but hopefully, you do never want to wish an injury upon someone, but I will. Hopefully de Jong gets fatigue, and then Pepi gets more minutes. But no, I'm just kidding. All jokes aside, yeah, it would be nice for him to get more minutes. I'm picking a player that does get a lot of minutes, plays out of position, got a post even from the USMNT midweek. Luca de la Torre, what a nice goal, really nice one. But I'll be honest, took the time to watch him today, and oh my lord, I just feel like he's the most frustrating player for me to watch. I always support him, root for him. He's from San Diego as well, but wow, it's so boring to watch Luca de la Torre. I think I counted. I don't know. I haven't checked any apps, but I think he had 1 pass that was forward the entire game. And it's so, yeah, I think he only had 1 pass that went forward. Most of the passes just sideways, backwards. He's not great defensively. He's just there running around, really. So it's really, really underwhelming performance. I don't like watching players that I particularly really want to do well be so frustrating. I have to pick him. I don't think the Del Toro has a future with the USMNT at all with these types of performances. We see the depth that we're having. I don't think that he gets ahead of anyone playing like this. I would never trust him to play ahead of anyone that we have in our midfield depth right now if we had a big game. So I have to pick him. Now, on a brighter note, Braden, who are the players that you think are going to catch your eye and maybe propel themselves into the conversation of, wow, they had a great week, they might deserve a call-up? You never know. Our fan base is kind of crazy. So who do you think is going to have a good week?
Yeah, I mean, last week we hit this nail on the head. I don't want to brag or anything, but I picked PFOC and Bayraktarovic, and both of them had really good weeks. So see if I can follow it up with another couple of good picks. And for my main player to watch, I'm going to go for Rokas Quikstas. He's not really an A-teamer, but he's a prospect that I think has a big future with the USMNT. And this week they have their game against Rijeka. It's first versus second in the Croatian league. And it's honestly going to be absolutely crucial to the title race. Hajduk Split, Quikstas' team, are looking to win their first title in, I believe, 23 years. They just signed legend Ivan Perisic to a loan deal until the end of the season to help them get over the line. I think it could be his debut for the club if he is back from injury. So that would be exciting. And a game against Rijeka, who are in second and have been pushing them the whole way, them and Dinamo Zagreb. It's one of the biggest games of the season, and Quikstas is going to need to be in top form because he's a pretty crucial player for Hajduk Split, a constant starter despite being so young. So I think this is going to be a game we need to watch him. And for my sleeper pick, it's going to be a player who, I'm going to be real, has no USMNT future, Doubt our fans even know him, but it's going to be Shane McLaughlin from Newport County because the League Two club from Wales have had an incredible run in the FA Cup, and they're going to be playing Manchester United this week. McLaughlin's been great. He has 3 goals and 5 assists from right wing back in League Two, and 3 goals and 2 assists as well in the FA Cup in very limited games. So he's been very impressive, honestly, for Newport County this season. And I think if anyone can get it done for Newport against Manchester United, it will be him from that position. And I don't know, I'm just excited to see such an under the radar American Irish dual national as well just go up against such a big club, Man United, and maybe try to squeak something out, get a goal contribution or something.
That would be a nice story. As I'll be honest, I don't know much about him either, so I'll definitely keep an eye on that. Now, my players, and also I'll definitely keep an eye on the post, so that's a great shout and a good game. Now, my players, I'll be honest, I don't really rate both of them that highly, but I'll pick the first one, the unorthodox picks, Johan Gomez. He has been adjusting really well for them. I don't think they're going to go down. Like you said earlier in the video, we have a lot of Americans balling in these second divisions. I don't think they're going to go down anymore. Braunschweig, I don't think they will get relegated to the third division. But he's been adjusting well, getting goals here and there. I think it's 2 games in a row that he gets goals. They're going to be playing a club that's, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name, 2 positions ahead of them. And I think that he might do well, honestly, just judging by the amount of goals that they conceded. They have a worse defense than Braunschweig. So I think that now that he's getting in the groove, getting good minutes, and I think that also looking to that Olympic roster, it's really important to get goals in these games where it is attainable and maybe keep the club safe and not really have to struggle against relegation until the end of the season. So I'm picking Johan Gomez there. And for my main player, I like him. I think that he should always be a constant in the call-ups, but a lot of people hate on him. I'm going to pick Brenden Aaronson. And I know they're going to play Bayern Munich, but I think it's a perfect game for him. People always say that he's a hustler, but I think that he's going to do well. I think that I'm picking, this is a wild Hail Mary right here. They have 2 games this week. I think that he might do well. And I think that for the type of game that this is, they're not going to have much of the possession. He could really thrive. He always puts in the work rate. They might have more space, and I think that he's good technically to get there. I think that they're not going to have that many chances, but he has the technical abilities. If he can polish his last touch on the last third of the pitch and maybe score an assist, I don't know. I'm just picking Brenden Aaronson. And his stock has been so down, so it's kind of easy to get it up. So I'm throwing him out there. Now, anything else you want to add, Braden?
That's definitely a bold pick, but the game this weekend for them against Mainz was postponed due to weather, so the full team for Union Berlin will be fully ready, fully fit for the game against Bayern. I don't know if Brenden will start or come off the bench. I think, honestly, he's a better player off the bench as an impact sub, but we'll see. That would definitely be a crazy thing to happen.
Yeah, if this happens, I think it's the wildest and best pick I've ever done in this channel, so let's see what happens. But thank you very much for you guys that watched the video this far. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing with your friends. Please comment down below your picks and stay tuned. We'll see you next time.